Hello again and welcome to Bophelong with me, Rufilwe Muilwa. Human Rights Day is a national day that is commemorated annually on the South African calendar on the 21st of March to remind South Africans about the sacrifices that accompanied the struggle for the attainment of democracy. Well, it's exactly a week since this year's commemoration, providing us with the opportunity to reflect on the progress made in the promotion and protection of human rights that we mustn't forget no matter the time of year. Over the past year on Bophelong, we've met many beacons of courageous light that rise above their challenges. Let's take a look at this story that highlights the plight of the disabled.
Many of you have heard of him through various media platforms. After his victory at the Commonwealth Games, we took this opportunity to find out about who Samkelo Radebe is.
I'm just one of those approachable people, friendly, funny.
He has over 50 gold medals and scooped the Gauteng Sportsman of the Year award, beating popular Caster Semenya mid last year. He took silver in 2011 at the Commonwealth Games in India and holds national records of 11.10 seconds for 100 meters and 23.12 seconds for 200 meters. The year 2014 came with difficult decision-making for the 24-year-old. Samkelo decided to put his sporting career on hold and focus on completing his degree in law at the University of Johannesburg. Currently, he works for Vexman Law Firm, doing his articles.
My goal was when I left high school, I wanted to compete at the Paralympics. And the only way for me to do that was to have someone that's going to fund me for it, because I wouldn't have the money for that, So I had to go to university. I was at the University of Johannesburg and I had a sports bursary which actually saw me through all the way to Paralympics, living my dream. But the most important thing out of all of that was for me to walk out of there with a degree. I wanted to walk out of there with a qualification, something that I can have for the rest of my life, go into a career that will sustain me for the rest of my life, And looking at athletics, I was at the top of my game and I couldn't say the future is bright. I was there, I was at the top, but there was really nothing. There's no going higher than that. You know what I mean? So here I'm right at the bottom, but I can tell you that the future is bright. I've got so many heavy medals, but the piece of paper that I attained in varsity is actually, it weighs much more than those 50-something medals that I have, and this will keep me going for the rest of my life.
Approximately 5 million South Africans are disabled. This is around 1 in 10 South Africans. Despite this, less than 1% of all people employed in this country are those with disability. The lack of representation of people with disability in the workplace was also a factor for Samkelo, who found himself as the only disabled person at his workplace.
Look, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's something new for me. So here and there I tend to battle, I tend to get tired a bit quicker than everyone else. My work pace is slightly a bit slower than that of a person with hands, and they've obviously made means to try and reasonably accommodate me. I have that Dragon system that I use. Instead of sitting and typing throughout the whole day, I can just talk to the computer and it writes everything for me, and I just correct it here and there, So there's a lot that I'm still gonna learn about the challenges I'm gonna face here at work, and there's no written book on how a person with hands struggles at work. It's something that we all gonna learn at the same time, and we need to find ways around it.
Samkelo can do anything he sets his mind on, even the little things like driving. When he's not in the field practicing or the office, he spends his time motivating youngsters.
I've done talks at schools, churches, community events, coaching events. Sure, I can talk anyway. I'm always available, especially on weekends, to do motivational talks, to guide young people.
Amongst his list of accomplishments is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 2007 with the organization Children of Fire to promote awareness for burn survivors.
I think in day one ngathi driver Samkelo. Okay, ngiphila nesikhathi esiphaya, but into athanda ukuyisho ukuthi uzama ukwenza better than abantu abanezandla. Ngiyathola. So if evuthi unishaye ipapa lakho libe njanjani wena ngoba unezandla angalenza like even better. So ile into like driver.
Minister Michael Masuta has made history as the first blind minister in South Africa. Barely 2 months since he's been appointed Minister of Justice and Correctional Service, he has certainly captured the nation's attention. Here on Bophelong, we got up close and personal with this trailblazer. Minister Masuta contributed to the UN adopting measures to recognize disability as a civil rights issue. From working as a lawyer to being a member of parliament, was this part of the vision for Minister Masuta?
When I became an ANC member of parliament in 99, it came as a surprise. I didn't see myself as parliamentary material. I was told that the disability rights movement, which I've been closely involved with for many years, had nominated me onto the ANC list. I tried to ignore it until the very last day when I was told that the deadline for signing up IC forms was the following day. Then I realized that I can't justify deployment, and I accepted and went to Parliament. I thought it was just going to be for 5 years, and I'll be able to go back to my passion of practicing law, but little did I know that 15 years down the line I'll still be stuck in Parliament. But it's been a fulfilling, enriching learning experience.
As someone once said, it is not our disabilities, but rather our abilities that count. After the ad break, we'll look at more stories that remind us of the importance of our human rights.
Icons is a unique visual journey of some of South Africa's greatest citizens.
When I wake up in the morning, I've got a challenge.
You succeeded in getting me to do something which is absolutely against my nature.
If I do something, I do something properly.
In celebration to 20 years of democracy, the newly released book 21 Icons offers exclusive access to a remarkable spread of South African legends.
It tells their personal stories and unique portraits that reflect our country and, above all, its people.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Ik is een kapst. Ja, de paar bezig. Kom.
Welcome back to Bophelong. Throughout this Human Rights Month of March, the government has hosted various activities to remind all South Africans to continue working together to uphold the culture of human rights. Up next is a story of two young people who let nothing, not even the color of their skins, be a deterrent in showing off their God-given talents and achieving their life's goals.
Sanele uses his talent and skill as South Africa's first male model living with albinism to best preach messages of acceptance, to educate society about albinism. At the age of 16, he was discovered by a fashion designer who offered him a job as a ramp model. Although he was reluctant at first, once he had completed his first runway walk, he couldn't refuse the offers that followed thereafter.
he just threw me in the deep end. I was like, I didn't even do one of those small shows and stuff. I just went straight into the deep end. I did my Durban July, and that's when my career of modeling started blossoming. I did so many things, and then I think that's where I became more proud of my albinism. I became more, I didn't actually care. I had like, let this know, if you do not like me for who I am, I mean, you can just jump.
Sanele is amongst a very courageous group of people living with albinism who have used their craft to lay a foundation for the next generation of people living with the skin condition. Salif Keita touched people from all walks of life through his music. Keita was born in the village of Joliba, where he was cast out by his family and ostracized by the community because of his albinism, which is a sign of bad luck in Mandinka culture. In 1973, Keita joined the group Les Ambassadeurs. Since then, Keita has become a voice for people living with albinism across the globe. He has inspired the current generation of talented people living with the condition across the world. These young and gifted generation of youth will stop at nothing to change the mindset of those who still view people living with albinism as the other.
I've casted for so many things, stimulal adverts, so many things, trying to prove a point, but then I'll get to like the round 2 and then I won't get casted for it. I'm like, I've put my all in this thing. But then I think that's a challenge. Like, are they ready to have someone that's different, and especially with a male, in terms of like someone who's a male and who has albinism? Are they ready to have someone as an albino for L'Oreal South Africa? Are they ready to have it for Vaseline? I just think that's what the challenge, and what the media in South Africa is scared to actually just get in there and to allow albinos to have a platform to actually be on the covers of magazines and all of this. I think that's the challenge what I'm facing at the moment and I'm actually experiencing. I have a goal in terms of being the first South African male model to become an international working model.
Life seemed like an unending emotional roller coaster for Petronella. Overeager friends and family tried to prevent the skin condition from spreading on her body by subjecting her to harsh medication and remedies that sometimes made her ill.
At some point, my parents tried so many medications. They took me to Barra Hospital. They took me to some dermatologists. They gave me ointments. I didn't really like medications because some of those ointments, they were smelling like, they were smelling too strong.
Eventually, vitiligo rapidly spread all over her body. She slipped into depression and resented her siblings for not inheriting the skin condition. This created conflict within the family, so she turned to a friend for support.
I just asked myself, like, out of 4 of us, like the children, why does it have to choose me? And then I realized later that no, it's genetic, because my aunt, which is my mother's cousin, she also has vitiligo on her neck.
During one of the many conversations she had with her best friend, Petronella started looking at opening communication channels with other people suffering from the same skin condition as her. She then initiated online multi-chat sessions with other people across the globe.
I remember at some point, I just cried alone in the room, and I ran to my friend's room. I told her, I opened up to her, telling her how I feel about vitiligo, how it affected me. And then after talking to her about it, that's when I realized that the more I speak about it, the more I tell people about it, that's the more I feel comfortable, and I started being myself, like, being able to wear things that I used to wear. I'm no longer feeling ashamed on, like, every time I have to think about something covering my body and all that so that people don't see it.
She started a website called Beyond Vitiligo for people living with vitiligo to share their experiences. The website also serves as an information engine on the skin condition for the general public.
I started having an idea of Beyond Vitiligo 2009. That's when I started talking about it. That's when I started realizing that we need a vitiligo support group in South Africa, because maybe there might be someone out there It might be a teenager, it might be someone who's not a teenager or someone who's older who also needs the support that I needed back then when I didn't have it. That's when I started the organization Beyond Vitiligo in 2011.
Her support base is now bigger than she had imagined it would be when she created the Beyond Vitiligo website. Her husband and son support her as they know her as the loving wife and mother, not the woman with different shades of skin color.
How inspiring those two stories were. After the ad break, we'll look at those who advocate for gender equality. Stay with us on Channel 404. This is Bophelong.
Eskom could miss a deadline for a crucial step towards turning on the Medupi power station. But the power utility says it will probably meet the December the 24th deadline.
We're looking good. We've come through 3 days, obviously, of load shedding, which has unfortunately been necessary, but it's been useful to have built up our reserves for the coming week.
Shares of private hospital group Netcare jumped up today and closed on a high after the company reported increased annual profits.
The hospital group is also taking steps to aggressively reduce its dependence on Eskom due to increasing power outages and rising costs.
We'll be reducing our energy needs by some 35% over the next 10 years, and our cumulative savings of our forecast electricity bill will be in the region of R1 billion. So we're doing something very constructive about the challenges we're facing at the moment.
That's business news, weekdays at 6 p.m. on SABC News.
Coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg, South Africa. Welcome to AM News on SABC News. We're on DSTV channel 404. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll be taking you through all the developing stories, all the leading stories in South Africa, in the continent of Africa and the rest of the world. The power utility has attributed the current wave of load shedding to what it has described as unforeseen technical problems at current power stations. Eskom has warned that there's a risk of a total blackout if consumers do not use electricity sparingly.
We must work together to make this world better for all. This is what Nelson Mandela told us. He taught us a very important lesson.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back to the last stretch of the show. So much has been done towards the advancement of gender equality issues the world throughout, but we still have a long, long road ahead. With the importance of gender rights, we are proud to shine the spotlight once more on these two people who understand, as the Dalai Lama once put it, that just as ripples spread out when a single pebble is dropped into water, the actions of individuals can also have far-reaching effects.
Muzi invited the Bophelong team to his home to make the big reveal, not only to his family, but to his community back in Pietermaritzburg. The night before his interview, Muzi expressed his fear on social media. He tweeted, "I am nervous and scared actually. I strip open my life on camera tomorrow." In our interview with Muzi, he requested that we give him the opportunity not only to slip into something comfortable, but to capture his transformation on camera. As he transformed into the many faces of Muzi Zuma, he cleared a few things about his sexuality.
I'm not a drag queen. I'm not transgender. I'm not a transsexual. I'm definitely not a cross-dresser. I am not anything that you guys class above that. I am just a gay man. I don't tuck. I don't wear boobs. I just rock fabulosity as a man. So don't Stop it. My life isn't a performance. It may entertain you, but it's not a performance. I'm not drag. I'm not anything. South Africa, I'm just a gay man.
Many often mistaken Muzi as a girl. When asked by the Bophelong team what gender he classified himself as, this is what he had to say.
Just because you decide to be that straight-looking gay person does not mean that I have to do that. Society needs, there's no look to being gay. There's no personality to being gay. There is no lifestyle to being gay. It's exactly the same way with heterosexuality. It doesn't have an image. It doesn't have a brand. You are still an individual. You're just classed under a different sexuality group.
We couldn't help but ask about his love life.
Man that I have now, or that I will have in the future, has to be somebody that I can see developing a future with. So over getting adapted to different personalities, I want us to speak about a house, sharing bonds and serious finances, working towards establishing a solid future, looking at parenthood, looking at conquering things together.
His biggest wish is to be accepted by society and have his community embrace him for who and what he is. So in this interview, he put together a very important message that he dedicated to his community in Esobantu, Pietermaritzburg.
To those that still don't know, this is what I want you to know and understand. I'm not an alien. I'm not an actor. I am just an ordinary person that you too are, with different scopes in life and different challenges and different wants. You need to realize that if you are straight, your ignorance needs to stop, because we are traveling two different journeys. I'm not after you, you are not after me. That's my life should not affect you at all. If you are still tribal and you're still rural, I am Umzulu. I still do my tradition. I love my culture. I love my language. Do not judge me just because of your rural ignorance. Look at me as a beautiful, gay and proud Zulu man, and respect that there is somebody from your culture that is confident enough to face the world and show the world that being an individual is just that.
After his separation from his abusive partner, Mashilo finally broke free. His biggest challenge was to pick up the pieces of his life, so he looked for platforms where he could break the silence on male abuse.
With those challenges I faced, I said, okay, I felt that, even all these men are being abused. And to me, I think men, I want you to, if you were quoting it, to say, well, I think men are mostly being abused than even women. Like most of us, we can think of, because there are so many challenges in terms of the financial, challenges. In terms of, if you look at the power relation, I just given you my story to say, well, the live-in partner left because I was not working after I was hospitalized. You understand? So most of women cannot even stay, especially in South Africa. They don't stay if a man is not generating any revenue.
Mashilo formed Moshate, an organization that rehabilitates men who experience domestic violence. This was a form of empowerment for himself, helping him deal with the abuse he had faced in his life.
The first thing that I did, I felt that we need to address this abuse against men. And then I started doing my own research around with other men that I knew around. And then they started to recount the same stories that I had, you see. And then from there, I wrote them down, trying to tie up a concept so that we can be able to propose to whoever who wanted to support our initiative. Then, that's what happened. I found similar stories of abuse in terms of many ways. First of all, to start this organization, I realized that a lot of men were being abused and they were not being taken seriously by the authorities or anything for that matter. Even government, there were no government programs that were being started to address abuse against men. And then I knew power, people opposing women abuse. And then later on, I knew of Sonke Gender Justice Network. But now when I approached them, because they claimed that they were dealing with men, when I approached them, I found that they were in fact another power, but the approach is very different from power because they gather men to talk about abuse against women. So then I said, well, which means even at this era, men are not being represented in every sphere. Then that's the one reason that prompted me to start the organization.
Human rights, of course, come with responsibilities, and we all have the responsibility to build a society that respects the rule of law. The message from government in commemoration of Human Rights Month is the Constitution is ours. Let's live it, let's own it every single day. Until we meet again, my name is Refill Wemwilwa. Thank you for watching Bophelong.